So when you've gone through a really challenging experience, it could be an illness, it could be a divorce, it could be losing a job or struggling financially, it's really easy to start feeling like life is against you, because it can become a habit to start assuming that life is happening at you instead of life is happening through you, where you're an active participant in that life. That doesn't obviously control everything, doesn't control other people, but that you have some agency in what transpires. I know I've had some challenging life experiences where questioning why was this happening, that it was unfair, that I hadn't done anything wrong. And in some situations, that's a reasonable perspective to have. But the problem is, if you hang on to it for too long, it becomes a disempowering cycle of negativity that means that you stop taking positive action in your life. You stop having faith, trust, hope in your life getting better. Because if you feel like life is happening at you instead of through you, you're going to think, what's the point? It doesn't matter what I do, bad things are going to keep happening to me. So it's really important after the rawness of a difficult experience has happened. So take time to process those emotions. Do not beat yourself up for feeling like a victim, especially in situations where you have genuinely been a victim of life. But to then move forward in a way that's going to empower you to start creating positive outcomes again from wherever you are right now. In this video, I'm going to take you through 4 steps to take back agency over your life so that you can start creating that better future for yourself. The first one is to take responsibility for your part in a situation without blaming yourself. Now, this is really important, and it's very difficult to do this. There's a tendency that when we take responsibility, we also take on the blame. And by that, I mean that we feel like we were responsible for this bad thing happening. And that's not what I mean about taking responsibility. Taking responsibility is basically saying, this bad thing has happened. Where can I go from here? So I'll give you an example here. When I got divorced, I was tempted to assume that I had done something wrong to create that situation. So I was blaming myself at times, and when I blamed myself, I actually made bad choices. So it's important to take responsibility without the blame, because then that enables you to make positive choices. So where the responsibility lies is acknowledging, in that situation, I did contribute to that relationship not working out long term, and it also wasn't my fault because my partner also contributed to that relationship not working out. And it probably wasn't a compatible relationship to keep going on for the future. So in that way, it wasn't really either of our fault, but more like a consequence of a lack of compatibility moving forward. So the nuance in responsibility without blame is seeing your role without taking full responsibility, seeing it as part of a bigger picture where there are multiple players doing a variety of different things. And the reason why we want to take responsibility for our role, if any, in a situation is that next time we want to make healthier choices. For example, I've taken some effort to try and avoid repeating the same mistakes I made in my first marriage in subsequent relationships. And I didn't always do things perfectly, but I'm very aware of how, for example, not communicating properly can actually contribute to a relationship breaking down. The second step is to acknowledge what you did well. So this is a really important one because we have a tendency to blame ourselves and to focus on the things that we didn't do well. So to counter that natural impulse of your brain towards negativity bias, acknowledge the things that you are actually proud of. For example, with my divorce, one of the things I was really proud of is that both me and my partner were able to get through that without projecting any anger or vengeful thoughts onto each other. That we're able to move through it while staying on friendly terms. Another thing I'm proud of is that I was able to not cast him as the villain, and that I did focus on taking responsibility for my role in that relationship ending, and that I did do as much as I could to grow from that experience so that I wouldn't repeat the same mistakes in future relationships. Acknowledging what you're proud of from navigating through a difficult experience is going to set you up really well for step 3. The third step is to reframe the difficult experience. So to find the gift or even the lessons that you've learned through that hardship. Now, this can be tricky to do when the emotions are still raw, and it's obviously easier to do in hindsight, but the earlier you can look for gifts or lessons, the better you're going to feel about moving forward. So with the case of my divorce, some of the lessons and gifts I got out of it was I had a second chance to experience being single and exploring my interests and values and rediscovering who I was in my 30s that was different to the woman who was a teenager and first got in a relationship with the guy she married. Even with more challenging circumstances, there are ways to look for gifts. For example, when I suffered from a very severe form of chronic fatigue syndrome in my mid-20s, one of the things I noticed when I was starting to recover is that I was able to appreciate small things in life that I'd previously taken for granted. So I really appreciated the fact I could go for a 20-minute walk, that I had the energy to do that. I appreciated small moments of beauty, like looking at a flower in one of the gardens on my walk. And that might sound really small and inconsequential, but it actually really helped me enhance the quality of my life because it taught me how to experience the beauty in small everyday moments. And that was a lesson that I took forward into my life. The fourth step is to trust the bigger purpose about why this is happening. Now, this one requires faith in some kind of underlying order to the universe. It could be religion, it could be spirituality, it could be just a sense that at some point this will make sense to you. It's about really zooming out and looking at the experience as if you're 5-10 years into the future and wondering what that might have meant along your life path. Even if you don't know the purpose, it's about trusting that there is some bigger purpose and you can still live an amazing life moving forward. It's totally up to you whether you want to stay feeling like a victim after a difficult experience, but that's not going to be the most empowering choice. As long as you stay stuck in feeling like a victim, you're never going to feel positive and hopeful and inspired about life. It's really important that when you're ready to move through that challenging experience and to find a sense of inner purpose that drives you forward.